Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Mark Sudduth here. It is Tuesday, the 31st of August, 2021, and I am over in Webster, Texas with Brent and Matt. We have been through a lot these last few days, a lot of work, a lot of recovery efforts to try to get out and get some equipment, and it's very difficult right now because of the ongoing recovery effort for the people. You know, what we need to do is absolutely insignificant compared to what they need to do. So we've come over here to the Houston area so that we are not taking up hotel rooms and other resources in the area that was directly affected. A lot more resources in Houston, a city of 4 million people. So it makes the most sense to be over here. It's a fairly easy drive on I-10. So, you know, here we are. I'm going to do sort of a recap here, a first look, because we're going to do this again in a few days and then again a few days after that probably. So this will be a first look at the Ida mission, some of the video that we have. Brent spent the day yesterday over in Louisiana between Houma and was trying to work his way down towards Golden Meadow and took a lot of drone footage. Unfortunately, he lost his drone. It had a malfunction in it and it just landed in some swampy area right off the main road from where he was for no explainable reason. But it did transmit the video back, a lower resolution version of the videos that the drone took. We do have that, so I'll at least be able to show you some of what he captured yesterday. And we'll look at some of the other raw video that we have as well. Just, again, a once-over, a first look at everything that we can compile for later. And then I'm going to show you, sort of at the end, why the weather stations became detached from the two bridges and fell overboard. And I know you could say, well, it's because it was too windy and they weren't tightened enough. Well, that's not the answer. It's a much more complicated answer, and one that I think is extremely fascinating. So we'll get to that. All right, so let's drop me out of the shot for a second and go over here to this folder, the Hurricane Ida hard drive that Matt picked up for us last night. So we've got these different folders in here. We'll start with the Brent videos. So this is early on, and I think this is near Morgan City, Highway 90, before Ida, the evacuation traffic. This is just some, again, this is literally raw video. And don't worry, nothing in there that's like, oh, shouldn't have shown that. The drone video, again, of Morgan City area, I do believe this is. All this evacuation traffic ahead of Ida. And you got a feel for these people that, you know, they're leaving their homes and businesses behind. They're not going to know what they're going to return to. And that is a rough thing. My family's had to do that for some hurricanes over the years. And this is hard because this is not an economically absolutely thriving area. There's a lot of hardworking, just regular Joes that work in the oil industry, that work as farmers down here. There's not a tremendous amount of wealth. And so any loss that these people take is hard. It's harder. It hurts everybody, whether you're wealthy or not, but this is especially hard for this crew down here, this group of people, I think. So that's a look at it beforehand. Some of these are redundant. All right. So I don't know exactly where these are. Okay, we don't have geotag, unfortunately, and Brent was just trying to fly as much as he could, but this gives you an idea of the damage. This is in the vicinity of Houma, in the Houma area, and you can see the power lines that are, the power poles that are tilted over, damage to mobile homes in here, some structural damage to some of the brick houses, roof damage, but nothing that we would call extensive or catastrophic. I do not see evidence of Category 4 or even really Category 3 wind in here. This looks like Category 2 damage, some decent wind damage to roofs, trees knocked over, that kind of thing, but it's not particularly jaw-dropping. I think you can see that. I mean, travel trailers not flipped over. You know, those are big clues right there that the wind through here was probably not of Category 3 intensity at this particular location. And, you know, maybe occasional gusts, but overall the background, and this is just flying back the other way. Here's a canal over here, and I bet we could figure out, you know, as you look at this video and you have time with Google Earth, etc., you could probably figure out exactly where this is on your own. I'm sorry that we don't know for sure. Yeah, it's something we can try to do a better job of logging. Okay, this video is taken at exactly this spot, and it may be cataloged in the drone, but since it was sent from the drone to his controller because he lost the drone, we may not have that geotag information. But again, you don't see, just like I said, jaw-dropping damage, which is a good thing. This is not evidence of a Category 4 hurricane just yet. Same thing over here along the canal, again headed towards the Houma area. No total roof failure, so that's good. Power lines down, you know, that's bad, but that's something that can be fixed. And even these sheet metal type buildings, these weaker buildings, if you want to call them that, less substantially built, whatever, they're not shredded. You know, so that's good. No evidence of just violent wind like we saw in the aftermath of Michael as an example. This says St. Bernard up here on the, hang on, I'm trying to get rid of these spam calls. These are, sorry, this is St. Bernard is what it says on that water tower there, just so you know. So let's move along to the next set, see what we have. Flying backwards through the area, just some different sort of cinematic perspectives. So this shows us the flooding. Again, somewhere out near Houma and vicinity. So extensive flooding, some of this from storm surge, and some of it from freshwater flooding from the rainfall. And you can tell that it's mostly the rainfall because storm surge is going to leave what we call a rack line, or an identifiable area of high water that was pushed up. And we don't see that in the video. We also don't see major structural damage. Again, that's a good thing. We're not seeing terrible, widespread collapses of buildings and homes. It's interesting that the forest canopy kind of looks a little bit shredded, not denuded, but there's definitely less leaves as Brent pans around here. Lots of flooding, most of this from the rainfall. 6, 8, 10 inches of rain, that'll do it. And this area is like a big old sponge, as you know, and this is what would be expected. Not very densely populated where he is in this shot. We'll see some more densely populated areas in a moment when we look at his ground-based video as Brent drove around the region. So moving along, just a really neat plan view. That's where you look straight down, giving you an idea of how everything looks. I like the power of these drones. Something looks like it's fallen into or sunk. This was an interesting building right here. Wasn't sure, excuse me, what that is, but they have roof damage and some stuff pushed into the water there. Can fast forward through this. Trees knocked over, completely laid over, mobile home destroyed there. This is why you evacuate non-stick built houses. You know, and this is a pretty bad, badly damaged. I mean, it's completely destroyed. Mobile home, hopefully nobody was there. There's a vehicle in the water. So this gives you an idea, this literal overview of how things look in the aftermath of Ida. Entire trees and the root balls. What a spectacular piece of technology to be able to understand the impacts here immediately. As we grow, let me bring me back on. As this project grows, funding-wise, and we're getting there, the ability to have satellite data uplinks, I think, will come into the picture. That the cellular network, as good as it is, and Verizon certainly has done extremely well for us. And by the way, I am a paying customer through your funding. Verizon is not a sponsor. I don't get discounts. And I appreciate that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be a paying customer, you know, because when you have these sponsorships, so to speak, sometimes they come with strings attached, and it's just better to remain a paying customer, in my opinion. And we fund it through you fine folks. But Verizon did great. All of our cameras stayed up as long as they possibly could have in extraordinary conditions. But eventually, we might be able to get to the point where we can afford some satellite broadband and start uploading some of this stuff. But that is very, very expensive, because this kind of video, we're talking gigabytes of video. Just something to think about for the future. Maybe the Starlink from Elon Musk, could be a factor in the future. We'll see. But anyway, here we go, just kind of scrolling through. You get an idea of the damage there. And Brent's just, this is raw video. This is what I wanted to show you. The flooding, just to look at the damage again. Let's move on to the next clip. Lots of flooding here. This has got to be freshwater flooding from the tremendous rainfall. Remember that Ida slowed down as it made landfall. So it was only moving at about 10 miles per hour, and it's coming out of an extremely warm Gulf of Mexico. In my video discussion later this afternoon, we're going to take a look at what changes Ida has imposed onto the Gulf since its passage, literally wicking the heat up out of the Gulf, dumping it on to Louisiana and Mississippi, and now all the way up into parts of the eastern parts of the southeast United States. And that's freshwater flooding. That's what it'll do. All right, ground level view, if you will. Different shots he's trying to show. The flooding here was not too bad. And we'll move on to the next video. I like the approach that Brent has, just to kind of give you that on the ground or 2 feet above it look. But this flooding is not terrible. Nuisance, a problem, but didn't wipe the places out. That's good. That certainly happened farther to the south. We know that. All right, so this is, let me pull up a map here. I think that I can show you exactly where that is, this particular map, geolocating me in Houston. So he was over near, Morgan City, Houma. There we go. I believe that what we are looking at is one of these. I think this is 24 that he was trying to take towards Borg, if that's how you say it. So I believe we're looking at Highway 24 in this shot right here. And it makes sense because if we look at the satellite, it looks like it should be heavily forested once you go down 24. He was trying to get down back towards this part of 24 right here. Yes, and let me highlight it. This is the area that we're flying through right now. I do know that. Elsewhere, he was up in the Houma area. So he was trying to take 24 back over to La Rose and then down the highway, eventually to Golden Meadow. And I'll just go ahead and spoil it for you. He wasn't able to make it, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So this is Highway 24. And this is a convoy of other people that were trying to get back to wherever, I don't know. But they had to stop and deal with the trees. Brent flew over and beyond, again with the drone. Really, really amazing what you can do with it. Maybe even looking ahead and saying, you're not going to make it. All of this boggy area, if you will, kind of difficult to navigate unless you have an airboat. But even an airboat, you got these hardwoods and softwoods in here. I don't know. People definitely had a tough time out there yesterday. So he flew back, and he's just taking, look at this, the trees heavily damaged and almost denuded here. The leaves blown off. Very brown looking, not very green. That is really interesting from the botanical perspective of this, impacting the ecosystem out there. Moving on along, he continued to fly, watching the convoy. And then, unfortunately, right here, his drone decides to just land for no good reason. It could have been a faulty battery that was telling him that he had more battery time than he really did. We don't know. It was very close to the road. But are you going to walk around in that? No, you're not. I don't care. You just get some hip waders. Well, the hip waders are not going to help you against the giant alligator. This is the drone. It kept on transmitting back to his controller. He was 250 feet away, Brent was. Wasn't able to get it. I'll show you some video where he tried, and then it kept going. And anyway, that's that. So that's the extent of the aerial video that he was able to do yesterday. Moving on along, back to the drive here. So let me show you, let's see, I thought that I had put his GoPro stuff. I don't think I did yet. So I don't have his GoPro shots. Oh, yes, I do. Sorry, my fault. I'm tired. So this is the ground level. Hang on just a second. And this is raw, unedited. Matt is texting me. Okay, I'm putting together the first look video for the supporters, and hopefully we will head to lunch a little after 1. And then Marcel. Okay, let me know if you get over to the... he's wanting to pick up cameras. Be safe out there, comma. We will grab the cameras because they are all going to be pretty high up and you will need a ladder, period. All right, sorry. All right, so let's go back to the folder here. These should be in order. So Brent got out his GoPro and mounted it right on the mirror of his vehicle. And so you get a ground level shot here, and this might give you an idea of where all he was. I'll just kind of fast forward through it. And this is the Houma area from the ground. So the last one, of course, from the air. And so here we are on the ground. There's a police officer. You can see the blue lights there. Damaged, but not a knockout punch. It's not like after Michael, where it was just like, wow, just complete damage to buildings. And even these lesser built structures, the poorly constructed buildings, which says nothing of the people down there. Don't get me wrong. Not everybody can live in a well-built, house these days. You got, as I said earlier, these people, one of the poorest areas of the country financially, but one of the hardest working groups of people you'll ever meet. They work in the oil industry, offshore platforms, you name it. And there's just not a lot of wealth to have big time, substantial construction. That being said, we're not seeing terrible damage. This is sheet metal. This is what you would expect in a category 1 or 2. Those downdrafts hitting the area, but not complete and utter devastation here as he drives around the Houma area. All right, so Hancock Whitney Bank Building, power line snapped over. Let's move along. Again, in the Houma area, flooding, but nothing. We don't see any big high water marks, so this is probably all from too much rainfall. Really interesting McDonald's sign there. Circle it for you. He's getting out. That's him. The camera is literally on the mirror of the door, and I was trying to highlight something. That's okay. You got the idea. There's that McDonald's sign kind of rolled up there. Eeh. All right. Power substation. These buildings all pretty well intact. So no evidence of just widespread category 3 and 4 wind. And this is on that west side and north side. They would have had a north wind, basically, in the worst of it. I could have had some radar imagery. I probably should have done that to help, but I want to get through this as quick as I can. Maybe something I can do for the future. But I do know that Houma was on that west side of the core. So they had a north wind, and so we're not seeing the extensive damage that you might see somewhere else. He went up on and through several bridges, and eventually out to that Highway 24 that I was telling you about. There's Brent taking some pictures. Okay, keep on moving. Roof damage there. Nothing, again, too shocking. Power out everywhere. Lots of traffic. You noticing that too? A lot of people out. It's dangerous out there. The four-way stops that you got to treat the stop lights as, that's all very, very important. So he drove around through Houma, and then he starts to head out into the outskirts, and he wants to try to get down eventually towards Golden Meadow. So he's navigating, and again, you don't see just widespread, prolific Cat 3, Cat 4 damage. Look at that grove of trees there along the side, that line of trees. They're not knocked over. So not a lot of evidence on this side of the hurricane's path for catastrophic damage from wind. And he keeps moving, there's an ambulance that went by. So finally, I'll skip ahead, he gets out here closer and closer to that forest that I was telling you about. So we're just moving along. It's a gas station, typical Category 1 wind, easy to understand there. They had power, I guess they got backup generators, cool. All right, power lines down, traffic, power lines. I mean, it's, hard going out there, but people are determined, I guess. Brent's certainly determined to get this aftermath, this immediate aftermath footage. Really interesting perspective, the side mirror of the GoPro. Kudos to Brent for doing that. That was very, very smart. All right, moving on along. Again, damage is, moderate, nothing shocking, as I said. This might give us a clue as to where we are. Some intersection and Highway 90 outside of Houma, presumably. And so he does get on 90, it does look like. Off he goes. So this might have been at the end of the day. The sun looks kind of low in the sky. So these may be out of order. All right, so whatever, we're just going to go through them. That's fine. That looked like he was headed west to eventually meet up with Matt and me here in Houston. So this is that Highway 24 I was telling you about. I mean, look at this. This is just the beginnings of it. I mean, wow. That's like, let's just let it roll in real time. Wow, The aftermath of a hurricane hours later, not even a day later. This is what it looks like as he's headed down, crossing these bridges. He flew the drone around this area. This is where he did some of that drone footage that I showed you. And then he keeps on moving. Pretty widespread Category 1, Category 2 damage. Entire trees laid over, some flooding. But no evidence down here of catastrophic flooding from storm surge, clearly. So it did not make its way up the canal, which makes sense because this area was on the west side or the north side of Ida's eye wall. Dollar General stores are everywhere, aren't they? I mean, my goodness. And no, this isn't the one where this is not Golden Meadow. Ours was near a Dollar General, the camera, the live camera. So off he goes, way out to the open areas here. Again, no evidence of major storm surge pushing up from the Gulf, but this Highway 24 stuff, I'm assuming that's where it is. I know we eventually get into the thick of it. Really, really remarkable tree damage. He's flying the drone here, some freshwater flooding there. Keep moving along. See if we see anything that jumps out. Wow. Serious tree damage. And isn't it just remarkable that they go only enough to not block the whole road? You can still get around to the right-hand side. How convenient was that? Just weird. So he navigates his way through, as you can see, and eventually he catches up with this convoy of people as he's making his way through this forest. He's flying the drone, the convoy goes by. He's flying the drone, he catches up to the convoy, and he's going to meet a very interesting person that we'll show you in just a minute. There's EMS, somebody comes to talk to him. He has some conversations with some of these folks. People are wondering what's going on. They're trying to get to wherever. Brent's following along, documenting with this camera. Wow. So let's move along. And he gets out and he flies the drone because they're going to stop, the convoy is, while the chainsaw crew works to keep clearing trees. So Brent takes the time to fly the drone, and then he's talking to somebody. Look, he's got his machete right there. Indiana Jones and his whip. You got Brent Lynn with his machete. So there he goes. The people go on. Brent flies the drone. His drone is going to encounter problems. And see, there he is controlling it. Not going to have the audio on because we probably don't need to hear those words. That'll be a story for another day. So he's trying to figure out what happened. He's lost it. And you're going to see him start to look for it in just a minute. This is quite funny, I have to admit. Funny, not ha-ha, funny as in ouch. So he's looking for it. He's trying to figure it all out. Time goes by. It's like 17 minutes long, these clips. Let's see, I know you see him looking for it here in just a second. Yeah, here we go. So he's going to climb on one of these trees here in just a minute. Get ready. This is the one. This is where the drone landed. Big problem. He gets out and wait for it, as they say. There he goes. I like kind of going da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, poor guy. The drone is right in there, and he had to be very careful. All this water and the sort of bog that's in there, the mat that floats up, I got to look up the term for it. But if you step on that, it looks like a big patch of grass. But it's not. It's floating, and it floats up and down with the water level. And if you step on that, you could go right through it and have some major problems. He's asking me if I have any socks. I do have clean socks, yes. Talking about him, and he's texting me. So he goes in, he's using binoculars, he tries to, and he's so close to it, but it was too dangerous. This is the look of despair. Some four-letter words, probably. It happens, you know, it's tough. This is a tough gig, and sometimes nature and technology will get the better of you. But more often than not, especially lately, he's still trying. Then he leaves some markers so he can go back, maybe. I'll show you. He does that at the end right there. He's looking, then he leaves like a red flag thing right there. He's marking it so he knows where it is for later. The orange Gorilla Tape and the machete stuck in the ground. If they bulldoze this or whatever, you know, forget about it. So he goes on down the street here, flooding now from all that rainfall and some of the storm surge. And the storm surge works its way up underneath as well. It's not just surface. Remember, this part of Louisiana soaks stuff up as a sponge. These are called wetlands for a reason. All right? I'm down in the parking lot. Okay, I'm going over the first look at all that video to put on for Patreon. So just hang tight for a little while, please. Everybody's ready to go get some lunch. Lots of flooding. He finally catches back up with the convoy. There's some damage to mobile homes through here, but not extensive. You know, the mobile home, the wind damage to the mobile homes wasn't. You know, I mean, some were destroyed, yeah, but again, we're not seeing the evidence like we saw after Laura, where it was just like, wow, like jaw-dropping obliteration. So this is interesting. He comes across this area close to where he wants to go. And there's a woman down here that he's going to meet who has run out of gas. She's just having a bad day. Her car doesn't work. She's got a donut on there from a busted tire or something. And it's a real unfortunate situation. He's talking to her, offering help and advice that he can. He goes on. He gets down to this. The convoy has already gone through here. And because he was dealing with the drone, he wasn't able to follow. And he wasn't sure at this point. And I admit, the convoy made it. But, you know, turn around, don't drown. I don't know that he would have drowned, but it could have been a real problem. So he contemplates it, drives forward just a little bit, realizes he cannot see the paint. You know, you can't see the road underneath. And some people were kind of telling him that maybe the water is still rising. He got spooked, turned around. Some other guy is coming across from the other way that you'll see here in a minute in his truck. He comes blasting through, and he talks to Brent for a minute, and that is that. He gave up and said to heck with it. There's this fella here. We meet all kinds of folks. Every one of them we've ever met has been nothing but nice, I will say that. But you can see the water is moving. See the motion of the water? Get this little time lapse built in, so the water is flowing that way for what it's worth. There is some motion to it down this way. So this big overland surge of water has to try to drain back out into the Gulf. And so it is probably still rising to some extent as that big surge of water moves. So this is really interesting. He comes up here, and there's this lady, and he sees her, and there's a coyote right there. And the lady totally freaks out. Let me back up where you can see her again. He's talking to her here. Sorry, I kind of went too far. There she is. So let's just put this in. I'm not going to put the audio on. It's not appropriate. We don't know who this woman is, and she's had a rough time. So he's talking to her, just trying to encourage her. It's going to be okay. He's going to tell police or anybody that's farther up, that she's there. And she's just stuck and frazzled. And then all of a sudden, she spots a coyote that comes out of this area right over here, and she gets really upset about it. And I could understand that, because it was a big coyote. Brent said that it literally had looked like liquid dripping from its fangs, as he said. And we'll get a look at it here in just a second. And so he helps her by honking the horn. And I think, let you hear that. I don't know why the audio is not playing. That's odd. Yeah, there's no audio for some reason, but there's the coyote. He's honking the horn. The coyote takes off, and the poor lady was not happy about it, to say the least. There he is there. A little close-up of it. Yep. Pretty large coyote at that. So the lady gets in front. Brent scares the coyote away. He accompanies her back to the car. And again, some words of encouragement. I'm going to send help for you. Hang in there. That's what we tell people. That's what she didn't want to leave either. She wanted to get back. There was no reason. She didn't want to go with Brent. And he told that guy about her. And he goes on up and tells other people that he runs into. And, hopefully she got the help that she needed. Moving on along. So I got to get to some other stuff here for you that is just remarkable. He finally gets out of the area. Again, all that overland surge of the water from the rainfall and the storm surge. Back through that forest he goes. Whew, it makes you dizzy, doesn't it? What an incredible thing, that GoPro. Just speeding this up 5-6 times would be a very interesting video, wouldn't it? Oh my. I'm not sure what's happening here. I guess he's waiting to go around. Oh, look, there's somebody in the back of that truck. It's the first time I realized that. Interesting folks down here. Like I said, they are hardworking, very independent, but they will help each other, and they will help you. But they don't take any crap. They really don't. Excellent people. Don't mess with them either. You got to respect them. And they've, the Cajuns, whatever you want to call it, Louisianans, and Brent and this guy are telling them about the lady that was stuck back there. Very tough people, what they've been through. Whoops, some issues with his truck. Raw video, just like I said. So here he goes. He finally gets on out of there. Try to skip ahead here because I got some other stuff I really got to show you. And that pretty much concludes most of Brent's ground video that's useful and helpful here. He did eventually get up to the bridge in Houma, right here. Let's go backwards because there's where he does that. Yep, this is where we had the camera box. So the camera is right there. And this is a good segue into what happened to the weather station that was right there. It's gone. There's the camera box. It ran beautifully. Didn't budge. So, yeah, we'll get to that. What happened to the weather station? So he goes and he picks up the box. And it's sitting in the back of his truck now, in fact. So just show you real quick. He goes down there and gets it. He brings it back, and off he goes. All right? Whoops, wrong way. So, now, let's go back out to, get rid of me, the folder here. Go back full screen. Nest videos. Okay. Let's start with the Houma bridge, because that felt, no, I'm going to show you the Hale Boggs bridge. All right. So this is the weather station perched up there. A couple things I want to explain, because what I'm going to show you is just going to blow your mind. The orange thing underneath is a DOT tool. They use those things. They're called barrier busters. That's like the brand name. The DOT uses those to put a sign in the middle. They bolt it down. The sign has a flexible bottom, and they can waver back and forth in the wind or when trucks go by. And those things clamp down to these jersey walls. That is what they are for. Okay? These are designed to hold stuff on jersey walls. As you can see, I have modified it to hold the case, and the anemometer there is bolted in, and then we take the whole thing and we screw it to the jersey wall. We lost one of these exactly like that in Laura. It inexplicably vanished. And I assumed, and other people agreed with me, that somebody came along and unscrewed it and threw it into the bayou, which is still a possibility, because when I show you what happened, well, we'll see. I'm not as sure that somebody threw it over, I'll just say that. And after seeing what happened to this, I'm even less convinced of it. All right, so I'm going to draw this out a little bit because this is very fascinating. First of all, yes, we bolted them down. We screwed those things down as tight as they needed to be. The camera has more surface area, the camera box that's looking at this. And by the way, the Shoepick Bayou incident is exactly why I now put cameras on these weather stations, because if anybody messes with them, I want to see it, and we'll make them famous on social media, infamous. Or if something else happens, like what happened, we can solve the mystery with the evidence. And it's just neat to see. Honestly, it was a great idea, born from what happened during Hurricane Laura. So what I want you to do is, I'm going to scroll through this real-time video in just a minute. I want you to pay attention to that right there that I have circled. Extremely important that you pay attention. Watch those as I scroll through and prepare to have your mind blown. They're moving. You see it? See, I'll go back. They're moving. What in the heck would cause them to move? They continue to move. See, they move. They move enough so that finally, watch, you'll see it really move there. The wind gets under it. Now watch the ones on the left. They're moving. See that? And then eventually they move enough. See, they're literally moving in the wind. I mean, I'm sure you can see it, but I'll circle it for you. Watch this one right here. Literally moving in the video, not the wind, sorry. I mean, they're unscrewing. Look at that. I'm going back and forth here. What the absolute heck? And then we all know the results. Unfortunately, they kept unscrewing to the point that the tension was released and our beloved $3,000 station went bye-bye. I think this is the one where it exits the building, so to speak. Actually, you can still see it moving just a little bit. It's a shame, but we have figured out, at least, there it goes, at least that it wasn't somebody, and it wasn't, that's hard to watch. It really is. And I'm going to explain what I think it is in just a minute, if I can get the controls back to everything. Uh-oh. The software is trying to mess with me. Let's see. Come on, give me my controls back. There we go. There. So let's go back just 10 or 20 seconds before it fell off. So sometimes the software just gets wonky on me that records all this. So that's the Hale Boggs Bridge, and you can say, well, maybe you guys didn't tighten that one, or whatever. But, all right, well, fine. So now let's go to this one. Okay, this is the bridge at Houma. Same kind of deal. I need you to keep your eyes on this right here. I'm going to scroll through. Watch those T-screws, as we call them. They're unscrewing. See? It's moving. And then it goes overboard. Very rapidly, too, right at the end there. Look at that. Look how quick that is. And then we know the result. And get right close to it. It's interesting. It's going different ways. and then it falls off, and it's just a real bummer. Sorry. So we'll watch this and the catastrophic ending, and then I'm going to share with you my theory as to what happened, because I'm sure you're already screaming at the screen with your own ideas. It goes that way, and it doesn't take much, unfortunately, and it falls off. Hopefully this will give me my controls back. There we go. Yep, so this is the last seconds of it. It's a real shame, yes, but I think I know generally the physical reason behind why this happened. If I can get me to come back. My theory, and I'm going to present this to a couple of universities and a couple of people in physics. It's not the vibration of the unit itself. I don't think it's that simple. That's too simple an explanation, because the camera box, as you can clearly see, didn't budge. So keep your eye on this right here as a point of reference. This is covering an hour of video. The camera box doesn't move at all. You understand? So it's not vibration of the thing, the whole unit, because the wind is buffeting the camera box at the same 100 and something miles an hour that is buffeting that. And the other thing is, this does not happen until the wind speeds reached a certain threshold. My theory is harmonics, that the anemometer is sending some kind of a harmonic frequency through the metal that is somehow causing those things to unscrew. This is awesome from a physics standpoint. It really is. And it could get a lot of people involved that are very smart. It is not a simple, well, you didn't tighten them enough, your idea sucks, back to the drawing board. We know what happened, we see it. Those things unscrewed by some magic force, and that magic force is explainable. So we have a lot of smart people here, undoubtedly, and we're going to have a lot of theories, I'm sure. But I'm definitely going to send this to a few people that I know. I'm going to make a video separate from this today that just focuses on this, where I zoom in and everything. I'm going to put it on YouTube. Maybe it'll go viral, and somebody that knows, and maybe there could be some experiments run. And the other thing is, we saw a couple of other weather stations from something called Mesovort. It's another project similar to this. Lots of people starting to do this kind of stuff now. You know, flattery, imitation is the best form of flattery. But they literally have the exact same clamp and a much smaller anemometer. It's a cup-based. And these are the best anemometers in the world. There's just no doubt about it. Very much worth the money. And we saw theirs, and theirs didn't fall off the Jersey walls that they had them on. I don't know if they had as high a wind, but the wind speed going up is correlated to the eventual unscrewing of the T-screws. And that is remarkable. That is something that we need to take into consideration and have somebody explain it. Right now, I think the solution is to put a nut and a washer, maybe, something on the inside right here so that these can't back out. So we put those on, and then once we know that they're tight, we then tighten it all the way up against the other side so that you cannot unscrew these things backwards. Unless that harmonic frequency is able to unscrew everything, and then I don't know what we're going to do. But I think that would logically, maybe something that even is self-locking, and that'll make it so that nobody could steal them either, because you're going to have to come along with one heck of a wrench to get those things off of there. So I'm going to replace the equipment, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, and go right back at this, because it's a solvable problem. I want to know the physics behind it. I think this is a great learning opportunity for some people to deal with something that might help engineering in the future. And let me just bring to light one thing that happened in the past. Are you familiar with, and if you're not, look this up on Google, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge? I think it was in the 70s. It was this bridge that was built, a suspension bridge, across the Tacoma Narrows Gorge in Washington, I believe. And the wind was blowing through there, just no big deal. Not a hurricane or anything, not a big storm, just casually blowing through. And the engineering didn't take into account harmonics. It blew through just enough so that if you took a piece of paper and you blew on it right, and it makes that humming sound, or you go, that's harmonics. It did that. Funny, I know, wasn't it? That face. It did that to this bridge to the point that it made it go like this, and it eventually fell apart. And people were walking on it before it fell apart. Eventually they didn't, and nobody was killed. But they've made like a documentary about that. This is something similar. And we're going to find the solution to the problem and the reason why it happened in the first place. And it's remarkable. I really think it is. And so the camera system facing these anemometers was a great idea. And we can thank Hurricane Laura for that. Because imagine these two things disappearing, and I just don't know why. That would have been horrible. All right, a couple other things, and then I've got to go get some lunch. You're all familiar with the camera that was under the house over here in Frenier Landing in Laplace. We saw the surge coming in, so forth and so on. 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. I went and pulled all these down in 1 hour increments from Nest just to kind of help me. You see the office there, the downstairs get trashed, and then eventually the box does get knocked off. So a couple things about this. That is a concrete column right here. And there's a whole bunch of these. There's another one right there. This building, this restaurant is elevated. The camera is sitting on one of these, facing that one. It is strapped. Basically, the camera is the equivalent of right here. You understand? So that's as high up as we could put it. Couldn't go any higher. There's a roof in the way, or the bottom of the floor, whatever you want to call it. So the camera was as high as it could possibly be. It took up about this kind of a footprint right here. Okay? So it's strapped on there with 2 straps. We did take pictures. I should have uploaded one and showed you. And a big giant wave comes and hits it and knocks it off, as you are aware. Let's see if that's this clip or if it's the next one. I guess it's the next one. Can't remember. That's fine. This is underneath. Here we go. So yeah, waves hit it. Yeah, some big wave hit it there and tilted it. And then the knockout punch comes right here. So this big massive wave comes in, takes the camera out. Our chain was too short to chain it up. And so we weren't able to chain it, which I think ended up being actually a good thing. Because once this next wave takes it out, if it was chained on there and tethered, from the lock and the chain that we put up so people don't steal these, it would have gotten beat up so bad that it would have turned everything off. I'm convinced of it. So the wave that eventually hits it here and washes it away, actually not being tethered, and just the ingenious design of the box. This particular one is the same exact concept of my box idea. In fact, I've got one over here. Let me go get it. We were drying it out. Sorry. This is what the box looks like. Generally speaking, that's the idea. The Nest Cam goes inside, and then the batteries and everything go in there as well. So one of our supporters, a wonderful man from Port Orchard in Washington, Chris Palmer, made a version of that just like I do. He had a little bit different adhesive with it that holds everything into place. And then he had this powerful antenna inside that boosts the signal. And that's part of what he does. He's in that business. So it's the exact same concept as that box that I just showed you. And it floated. That's remarkable. It has a very heavy battery. I don't have one handy, but there are these. Yeah, it's right here. Sorry. The whole thing floated all the way over to this tree area, who knows where. It had one of these batteries in it. This is about the size of a book and about 7 pounds. and it's obviously airtight. Good job, Pelican case. So it floats over here, and we know the rest. This is early on. It floats over. It becomes Blair Witch Project. Scary. I mean, yee. This is horror movie stuff. So we don't know where this camera is. No, we did not put any of our tracking assets in there. My fault. Should have done that, but I didn't. Listen, we put these up higher than 8 feet. The storm surge forecast for that area was 5 to 8 feet. I've got the proof. I could show you. I can go back and show you. You can look at my videos. You'll see. It didn't change while we were out there. It was 5 to 8 feet, and it was much higher in this one spot. Storm surge modeling cannot capture every nook and cranny. It was much higher in this spot. We put them higher than the storm surge forecast was. The other camera box was out on a light pole, and it was 10 feet up. That camera box, the live feed from there, also had a GoPro box with it, above it, on the same pole. Is this it? No, I was just trying to find the... But you know what that video looked like, hopefully. Let me go back out to the title thing, because I got to wrap this up. Bottom line is we had 3 cameras at Frenier Landing. One of them is gone. It washed away. It streamed for about 3 hours after it popped loose. Some of the most remarkable video. That's like amazing. That'll be really neat to show and help people understand this could be you. This could be your point of view. If you don't evacuate, you could end up over in some trees and eventually die, drown, exposure, whatever. The 2 that were on the pole, those were chained up and strapped down really well. And that camera ran for a long time once it looked like the peak surge hit. So we are very hopeful that that steel pole is still there and that both cameras are still there, because that GoPro in its own box is also airtight. Remember, it went underwater. Those GoPro boxes, one of them went underwater to the tune of 5 feet last year during Hurricane Sally from a river flood in Alabama along the Fish River. So we're going to go back as soon as we can to try to pick these up, and the rest of our equipment as well. We're going to start doing that tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm going to prepare a list, because several people on Patreon have already said, I would like to help replace some of the equipment. So let me preface this by saying what you've already done with your support at the $10, $25, some of you more than that level is fantastic. And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that you have helped this grow tremendously. At the same time, there are people that are in the position to offer more. And I have to allow that. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't make good sense to say, you know what, no, I got all the funding I need, because I don't have all the funding I need yet. I'd like to buy a vehicle eventually and not have to keep renting. We're getting there. We are definitely getting there. So, you know, I'm very humble about all of this, and I hate asking for money. I hate that I have to make this cost anything. If I had $1 million a year endowment or something, I would make this available to the entire internet for free. But you know, even if I did that, it loses some of its specialness because of you find people that really believe into it. We usually value what we pay for. And when stuff is free, it's not the same. I know I'm rambling, so let me get on with it. I'll put a list in a separate Patreon post of the equipment that we need to replace what was lost. The anemometers are the most expensive. They are about $1,600 each. And, you know, somebody might be able to replace one. Maybe we can, hey, I'll put in 500 if somebody can put in 200 or whatever. The cases themselves right here, oh, sorry, this one, are, I think, $100, $150. The Nest cams are less than $200. They're harder to find, though, those Nest outdoor cams. And the battery that I showed you, these are about $130 on Amazon. There's another version of that battery. Do I have it? Yes, I do. Right here, it's called Talent Cell. That's the company. It actually has a switch on it. These will run the Nest Cam for 40 hours. A single one of these with just the Nest Cam plugged in will run that Nest Cam for 80 hours. So it's just a matter of, do we plug 2 things into one battery or 1 thing into each battery and have it run double the time. I'll put a list of everything. If you are in the position to help, that's great. If you're not, hey, please don't feel bad about it. I don't want you to feel guilty. Hey, I'm paying $10 a month. That's all I can do. I want you to say to yourself, that's what I'm doing, and I am glad I'm doing it, and it's really helping the crowd part of the crowdfunding. But yes, anybody that's in the position, I will welcome that, and we can help build up our inventory again. And really, it's not just to replace what we lost. Maybe we go and we find everything. Nothing is gone yet, except that one weather station that fell off the bridge in Houma. That's gone, because it fell into the river. The weather station that fell off of the Hale Boggs bridge, Boggs Hale, whatever it is, that's down in the grass. We saw it, and we're going to try to go get it tomorrow. And some of it might be salvageable. We'll see. But who knows? We might get all the cameras back. Maybe we get lucky. We do have trackers for them. And yes, in these big extreme events from now on, everything is going to have a tracker. Matt had some cameras. Let me just show you that real quick before I let you go. I forgot to do that. Matt set up these GoPros that he has engineered. The GoPro was weird, though. It shot it in portrait mode. So I know it's odd, and you know how much I'm against portrait mode. But I can fix this in post, as they call it, where it's rotated horizontal. Same idea, GoPro in a much smaller case. He put the Apple AirTags in. They worked fantastic. We knew when people were driving by, so forth and so on. We went and picked these up. Many, many hours later, you can see as we've just progressed through. I know it's vertical, sorry. You know what? I think this lets me rotate. Let's see. No, not on this particular player, I don't think. Play as 360. No, we don't want to do that. Sorry, I was just going to see if it let me rotate. But the hurricane comes through, and it does cause some damage to this area. I'll just kind of scroll through and show you. But the AirTags worked great. Anytime anybody drove by with an iPhone, it pinged, and we knew that these boxes had not been removed or stolen or whatever. And here it is later, and then we eventually come by. I'm going to show you when we come by. It's pretty funny. It's actually pretty cool. And then I'll finally be done. There's the backside coming through. Yes, I can definitely fix this in post-editing later where it's horizontal. Let's see. We eventually come by. I want to show you. You know what? Let me just go to the folder. Duh. Sorry. I'm learning still. I'm tired still. So this is when we finally come by and pick them up. Should have just done that. Would have made it a lot simpler. See us drive up. There we are. There's Matt. There's me filming. And we were like, yeah, it's still recording. A really remarkable thing, and the AirTags paid off. That's the guy behind the idea. And so yes, from now on, you have my word that in a tropical storm or a Category 5 and everything in between, we will put AirTags in all of the devices. Those are the simplest things to do. Matt's going to help me with that, and we can at least mitigate losing the equipment in the future. So yes, I'll put a list, and if you can help out, that'll be awesome. The entire project will thank you for it. And we can build more equipment. We can never have too much, put it that way. What if we have back-to-back big hurricanes and I need a whole bunch of equipment? All right, let me finish and put this online for you guys. That's a huge file. I got to upload it. And I'm going to go get some lunch. Enjoy the first look here at Ida. Thank you so very much for being a part of this. The month is going to flip over to September, and all the new patrons, you're going to get billed for the month of September tomorrow. I hope you stick around and become a part of this permanently. We ask for $10 a month. I do, because I feel like that's a good number, that when we put it together, if we could eventually have about 3,000 total patrons of a revenue of about $30,000 a month. Now, before you gasp and go, man, I wish my income was 30 grand a month. That's not all my income. That is the gross revenue for the project. We could have multiple vehicles. We could have a staff, pay a meteorologist to be online coverage, like you see on television, except that this isn't television. This is hurricane and other severe weather coverage for the modern age. And we are getting there. We are about a third of the way of where I really want to be. Like the best it can be, we get that number to about 3,000 annual patrons, or about a $30,000 a month revenue generating platform. The sky is the limit, and we can reinvent big time. What we have done is great. I want to grow it even more, so I'm hoping, if you're capable, I know times are tough for a lot of people, hang on, become a sustaining member year-round. We cover much more than just hurricanes. We have the documentaries that we produce, the original podcast series. There's more to this than just the drive-by, hey, I want to see what the hurricane videos showed, and I hope that you see the value in that. All right? Great to have you. Thanks for supporting this. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll do another one of these in the next couple of days. We'll be back in Louisiana tomorrow retrieving equipment, hopefully streaming live. I'll update you later on that, and I'll put the Hurricane Outlook and discussion video after lunch as we take a look at the tropics going into September. Thanks for watching. We'll talk again soon.